All right, here we go. Back to the book. The operators of machine guns of any sorts are targets for all riflemen. Their vulnerability in action gave rise to the term suicide squad. Sergeant Felix called to one of the runners to bring him the gun. The runner dropped dead as he handed the gun to Felix. We had advanced to the German third-line trench, fighting desperately meanwhile and driving the Germans before us. I had not reached any of them with my bayonet, but had been doing the deadly work with my rifle. As we rushed to the German trench, expecting to jump down into it and fight hand-to-hand with the enemy, we saw that we could not do this. The trench was covered thoroughly with barbed wire, so that nothing much larger than a hummingbird could get in. We lay down outside the parapet to fire at close range. Someone shouted, "Look out, there's a bomb." It went right off in my face, but all my parts seemed to be present immediately afterwards. I saw Felix lying there sprawled out, groping for his pistol. I said, "What's the matter, Bill?" He couldn't answer, but turned weakly to me, and I saw that half his face seemed to have been torn off. I picked up the automatic rifle, and as I turned it into the German trench, they got up and ran back. I was the only one firing. I saw many of them drop with the 60 shots a minute I was pumping at them, so I knew I was getting enough of the enemy to make up for our men who had been killed and wounded. For a time, there was nothing to shoot at, so I took stock of the situation. So far back that they were hardly more than specks, I saw tiny men in blue digging in. It must have been all of a half a mile. I knew that we should not stay out here in such an isolated post, but what were we to do? I never thought for a minute of abandoning the wounded, so there we stayed. The snipers far off in the wood were still firing at us, and there was no way we could reach them or entirely escape their bullets. I couldn't get into the trench, so I crawled around it, well over into the woods. Shell holes everywhere. I saw for the first time what havoc could be wrought by shell fire. At places the shell holes were connected solidly to each other. The trees and bushes were shattered. Men were blown up and blown up again. They were in pieces. It would have taken a bushel basket or a GI can to have gathered up all those Germans for burial. I admit that they were the finest of soldiers. After 4 years of war, they fought to the death before they would give up a position. They were so well trained that it was second nature with them. They had been regimented for so long that they never questioned an order, put up with all sorts of privation and suffering, and were cheerful through it all. The majority of them were in very good condition when captured. It showed they could take it. I often wondered if our own men could be as good soldiers after 4 years of war. All of us could not be brave. Bravery is a sort of fixed quality, something that some men have, and others do not. Only physical collapse or death stops the brave. Some will be brave when they must, when they, like a mother animal, are driven by the instinct of self-preservation to protect their own lives or that of their offspring. A man who naturally has courage is fortunate. It is the ability to control his mind, to prepare it so that he feels nothing. Courage is the product of physical strength and mental strength combined. Proper training will make men more courageous. And certainly, these Germans were courageous. Physical strength and mental strength combined. That's where that courage comes from.